Welcome, everybody, to Punishment. Does it work? Does something work better? Starring Allison Smith and whoever this guy is.
Brian King, coach
We
extraordinaire.
we promised to be live to you about 18 minutes ago, but
Oh my
winter
gosh, has it been that long?
winter technology always being what they are, everything was sluggish and slow, much like my metabolism. So, with that, we
And my
promised
brain
you,
this morning.
yeah, hence the coffee. The coffee cup overfloweth. I'm going to go stick a peg in a tree later and milk it for more coffee. That is where coffee comes from, right? It's like maple syrup, just comes out of the tree right into the cup.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
We
let's
have
go with
it.
that.
We have IVs here in
Yes,
Canada.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My veins are kind of tapped out. I'm thinking about getting a port, pour it right
You
in
know,
the morning.
I have an IV for my coffee and an IV directly to my maple tree outside.
You know, that is a gateway drug. You want to be careful with that.
Oh my gosh. I've been okay though. I haven't leveled up with that. I've been on the maple syrup for a number of years now.
Well, the important thing is that we're lifelong learners and that you have every opportunity to level up should you choose to. So, with that, can you tell us laugh happy, little tired? We work hard for a living. The topic that we promised you was to kind of do an examination of the idea of punishment, what punishment is typically viewed as, and is it effective? Is there something more effective? Now, the way I view punishment, because I was raised by a Catholic family in a Catholic school in the era of corporal punishment, where the head nun, who was the principal of the school, would paddle the butt of a child in front of the class if he misbehaved. So my mom was big on fly swatters with wire handles.
Ow, those pick up some good speed.
Yeah, none of that plastic stuff anymore.
No.
There was a wooden paddle that was hung on the wall in our house,
Wow.
and there was also the belt on occasion. And when that buckle hit your hand as you tried to guard your backside, holy cow, did you remember that?
Okay, so you got hit with the buckle end.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
what
yeah,
was
we
what
we
was
had the other end,
what was my
which
takeaway
still
from all that? Did I learn to straighten up and fly right? No, I learned to be terrified of anybody that displayed anger because anger meant violence. So as an adult, whenever somebody would get angry with me, I would get flustered. I would shut down. I had a hard time processing it. It led to me kind of pushing down my own anger to the point where I would blow up at people and I wouldn't know where the heck it came from. I learned not to express anger at all because anger was dangerous. It did not correct my behavior because a lot of what was going on with me was undiagnosed ADHD, which could only be remedied by correcting those skill gaps, teaching me what I needed to do to work around the challenges created by the ADHD. But in my parents' defense, they didn't know.
hmm
ADHD wasn't a thing back in the 70s and 80s.
Oh my
But
gosh, you're that old?
yeah, doesn't it show? I mean, take a look for crying out loud. Any angle is more pathetic than the first. You know, it's just
Self-deprecating humor. I get it.
you got to stay humble and you've got to find humor because being a parent is hard as hell. You
You know
know,
what? Speaking of humor, I want to give a really quick tip to everybody right now. If if you're having a tough moment with your child, rather than thinking through how can I change their behavior, what can I do to them, for them, with them, whatever, see if you can infuse a little bit of humor. Now, this doesn't work with all kids. Some kids will get offended thinking you're making light of whatever their struggle is. But whenever you can have a laugh together, it really breaks the tension. And sometimes you don't even need to go the next level because everyone just needed a break. So please go on.
that's excellent advice. And there are some times where I will crack a joke with a client as well as with my kids, and I'll get that little turn of the lip, like a half smile,
Mm-hmm.
like you got in there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And but sometimes they'll say, "It's not funny, Dad." Of course, they wouldn't say
Yeah.
that to you, but when they say it's not funny or they're trying not to see the humor, what do you say to them then?
I appreciate, I can see how important this is to you and that you've got some big feelings about it. And I apologize if that landed the wrong way with you. So let's talk about what you do need.
I throw a little something else in there.
What would you be? I'm guessing some sarcasm.
No,
What would you do, Brian?
sarcasm is usually what gets the smile or some little joke or observation.
I usually get some some irate reaction from one of mine.
Not when my oldest used to get really ticked off at me because he would be the one to laugh the easiest, and he wanted to be taken seriously and he wanted his anger recognized. But then I get him to crack a
Yes.
smile, and I would say that's just a way of showing you that it is possible to find a little ray of hope or happiness in this difficult moment.
Yeah. And just recognize, I see that you need some validation first. You need me to understand where you're coming from.
And usually that is a piece that's missing when any kind of discipline or consequence is given out.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, and a lot of people will argue this because they haven't thought it through. Punishment is for the benefit of the punisher.
Tell me more about that.
That punishment is usually levied against someone that broke one of the parents' rules or one of the grown-ups' rules. All the rules in school, kids have no say in that. Not that you want a first grader determining how long lunch is going to be, should be the second half of the day.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah.
but they should at least be given a chance to learn how to think through why they did what they did instead of having some emotionally reactive parent show up and say, how dare you, that was wrong, that was disrespectful, give the beating, take away the electronics, make this outrageous threat, you're grounded for the rest of your life. Not enforceable, right?
Yeah. You know what
But
that sounds like? That sounds like perhaps the adult needs some validation of where they're coming from. I'm feeling disrespected. I'm hurt or disappointed. This feels like I'm less important because you're not valuing my rules and why I've put them in place.
and how would the parent get that validation?
Not from their child. So ideally, they take a step, they recognize what's happening, they take a step back, and they acknowledge themselves. But that's a skill set,
So we need some
and it takes a lot of
self-awareness there,
practice.
right?
Pardon?
Some self-awareness is necessary there.
Yes.
The
But if
ability
they're
to
not quite at
pause.
that point, then having a listening partner, hand-in-hand parenting has a really great model for that. I really love that. They have some free resources for parents as well, for those who, if coaching's not the right fit, excuse me. But a friend, a spouse, an adult, basically, that they can talk some things through with. Obviously, working with a coach is fantastic because that bypasses so many of the obstacles that we discover when we're working on our own to discover these things. It speeds up the process, and it also gives us that objective feedback for all the things that we can't see about ourselves.
Yeah, those
Parents,
blind
the blind spots.
blind
Yeah.
spots are nefarious, and even we have them. That's
Oh gosh.
that's why I have my own coach, because our brain is really good at confirmation bias, seeking the stuff we already agree with because it makes us comfortable, versus the stuff we really need to look at but might be a little too afraid to do.
It's
So
uncomfortable
we have a
to
coach
face
that
those hard truths.
hopefully shows these things to us in a way where they're not overwhelming or traumatic, but invites us to take a look at them in a way where we can do some healthy reflection,
Right.
feel supported, and so
Right.
on.
And a good coach will create that environment where you can feel less less vulnerable, less afraid of being called out on your BS, because you know that they have your best interests at heart, and they're pushing you just enough outside your comfort zone so you can learn and grow. But you know that they're on your side. There's this cool little tool, or this metaphor, that I use with clients when we're talking about our blind spots. So if someone were to attempt to see their own nose on their face without any mirror or any device,
Some of us have no problem whatsoever.
you can't get a clear picture of your nose. No matter how big it is. You can see some of it. You can get a sense of it. You know it's there. You cross your eyes enough, you see some of it. But we don't get a clear picture of it because we're so close to it. However, if we had a mirror, we can see it how others see it. And a coach is like that. They're the mirror for the nose of your BS.
Well, there's a t-shirt I want to wear.
Let's make a meme. You know what? I'm going to offer a little prize to anyone who makes me a meme of that.
Oh, I'm going to be so all over that.
Okay, sure. How about
Anyway,
15 minutes coaching?
sure, that can be powerful.
That'd be fun.
And people that are used to 45-minute therapy sessions that are basically just, yeah, tell me more about that. And how did that feel? And you feel no better off than when you went in there. Coaching is so much different. 15 minutes is laser focused and awesome. Anyway, commercials aside, punishment. I don't know how you were raised, because Canadians are all like freewheeling, relaxed, kick back, never lose their temper.
No. We're nice, but some of us are nice because of the same reasons you described. We want to avoid conflict.
Yeah, people pleasing is something that is learned from punishing. If I do what I'm told by the people who have more power than me, then I will be safe. That is no way to live, because then you spend the rest of your life meeting everyone else's needs but yours. And a lot of the people that I work with, parents now, are so harsh on themselves whenever they make a mistake. And you talk about perfectionism and being afraid to make mistakes. Where did that all start for you? Well, mom was really hard on me. Dad was really hard on me. So there are so many.
A child's inner voice is developed through the way their parent speaks to them.
And also, kids who believe they're the center of the universe, and some people never outgrow that, but all they know is their own point of reference. So as a kid that's being harmed or injured by a parent, they can only conclude that it was personal, that it was something about them that resulted in that treatment. That's where shame comes from. I'm bad. I'm naughty. I'm not good enough. And you wear those beliefs for decades before you maybe even realize it's there. And it can feel so embedded in your nervous system and in your belief system that it didn't occur to you that it wasn't personal. And that's where parenting coach can be very useful for you in helping you unpack that and ideally re-script it. So you're no longer working from that paradigm, but you're working from one that's more like Allison described, where you reflect upon your own needs. You reach out to someone and say, I need to know I'm not crazy here. I need some validation. I need a third person perspective on this to help me see if there's something else I could do moving forward. Because if the way you are dealing with behavior from your child is aggressive, it feels reactive to you, and it's not getting the results you want, it's time to do something different.
Right. And that's the fight or flight response. We're hardwired to preserve and protect ourselves, not just our physical selves, but our beliefs, the way that we view the world, the image we have of the world, what we think about ourselves and our place in it. Excuse me. That is, we're hardwired to make sure everything stays the same, because sameness is security for our primitive brains. And years and years ago, that was true, because if we weren't the same as others, if we stuck out a little too much or didn't follow the social mores, the norms of the community, we would be ostracized. And being kicked out of the community or the tribe meant death, because we could not survive on our own. So when something threatens the views we have of the world, we feel it physically, and our brain is causing our whole body to react in a way to fight that, or to run away from that, or to freeze.
Well, mentioning the fight or flight response, that's an important little pearl there. Because as I think about it, I remember back when my kids were little, because they all have autism spectrum, ADHD stuff, did a lot of impulsive stuff. One of my boys would just run, and he wouldn't care where he was running to. into
Mm-hmm.
traffic, towards water, didn't matter. And I know, like myself and like some other parents, where you get scared and there's a swat on the butt and you say, stop it, don't do that. There's no real conversation around what was the actual danger.
Mm-hmm.
What did I get wrong? All they know is, hey, I was running free, I was exploring. And the next thing I know, I felt pain. What's up with that? And from the parent standpoint, that is a response to fear. I fear that my child is not safe. So instead of saying, oh, don't do that, that made me afraid, mommy or daddy is worried about you, it's stop that. What were you thinking? Don't ever do that again. Whack. So the message that I love you, I'm worried about your safety, never gets communicated. And in some cases, as the child grows, what do? They realize, hey, I'm stronger now. I maybe have a size advantage. Let's see what happens if I push back. Now that can escalate things when you've got the fight or flight on both sides of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Both people that are trying to maintain their sense of safety and autonomy versus letting themselves be controlled by another person. And it's turned into, that's so disrespectful. How dare you raise a hand to me, whatever. Well, mom or dad, you kind of established that as the rule here.
Right, that's the model.
When we're angry, you raise a hand or you do something threatening. Well, I'm angry now and it seems to work for you, so I'm going to give it a shot. And
And
I've
it's
seen that
not even
dynamic.
something consciously decided on. It's kids are wired to follow what we do, not what we say.
Well, look at crowd mentality. You know, you could have otherwise reasonable people get swept up in the mob because there's something that says if some of us are running from danger, the rest of us better run too.
Right,
And you see that with gazelles, you see that with all kinds of animals where
right.
there's some switch that just gets flipped in the brain. So, as much as we might think, oh, we're in charge of everything, not everything. There's still some instinct and some automatic things that are set up in our nervous system. So,
So what's a parent to do then if
yeah,
we've
what do
got
we
those
offer up as
instincts?
an alternative here?
I don't have we ever discussed my 4 steps to positive discipline?
No, but we're about to.
Okay. So this is exactly what you do if you want an alternative to this punishment paradigm that we've talked about. So the very first rule is safety. Safety first. If your child is running toward the deep end of the pool and they're about to launch themselves in and they don't know how to swim, absolutely address that first. We're not going to call from afar and ask them how they're feeling about things. We need to ensure the safety first. When that is done, we switch to our 3 main steps. So always safety first. But what we need to do first is we need to validate in some way how they may be feeling, what their response is. And before the age of 7 or 8, everything that we say to our child does not go through a filter. It goes directly into their understanding of the world. And because they believe everything, this is the magical thinking stage. They believe in all kinds of things, which I will mention because my kids are just outside the door here. No school today. Yeah. So they believe whatever they're told. And they can't imagine that a parent would ever be wrong or mistaken or say something that wasn't true. So whatever is said is interpreted as the absolute truth. So if my parent says that was a really stupid thing to do, the child believes, well, my parent couldn't have made a mistake calling it stupid, so that must be me. I'm stupid because only stupid people do stupid things. They don't yet have that growth mindset of mistakes are just mistakes. Everyone makes them. It's okay. Let's just learn from it and move on. So the second step, we really need to let them know that we're at least attempting to understand their perspective. If we don't focus on that relationship first and we go right into the left brain thinking of let's look at solutions, let's look at judgment and logic and plans, all of those sorts of things, that's where the power struggle can come in. We have to have that relationship building first. So that's step 2. Step 3, we need to build the communication, sorry, not the communication, the connection with our child. Sometimes that's automatically developed through that process of validating, saying, you know what, this seems really hard for you. Or it seems like you forgot this rule that we've created together. Or I love you so much and I know you're a good kid. This isn't like you. So we're isolating, separating the behavior from the personality and from them themselves. So we're finding a way to connect with them, which sometimes can be humor, laughing. It can be a hug. It can be, you know what, we just need a break. Let's go get a drink of water and then we'll come back and we'll figure out what we're going to do about this. So some kind of a way to foster that relationship, focusing on that first. What's interesting to note is step 4 often isn't even needed if we've done the first 3 in a positive, effective way. Step 4 is where we usually jump first. Don't do that. In our family, this is our rule and this is why. Here's what could happen if this goes on. All of those sorts of corrective measures and advice, unsolicited advice, suggestions, lectures, all of those things are step 4. Now, positive parenting, that's going to sound different, but the point is the same. All we want for our kids is for them to learn. Step 4 is all about the lesson. How we do it might be different depending on the views of behavior that we have. Would you like to add anything to step 4?
Well,
I know you've got ideas.
Add something to the whole thing. And first of all, I love the way you laid it out like that, because it's not only clear, it's actionable. And so few of the times discipline is enacted, so few of those times there's an immediate danger to your child's well-being. You're like, maybe you heard a rumor, hey, your kid was out, smoking this weekend with the kids from school. And you can react, you can huff and puff, work yourself up, and by the time the kid gets home, you just unleash the fury of God on them. Or you could go through the 4 steps and say, okay, what do I need to do here to make sure I connect with my child? We get on the same page, and we can come up with a mutually agreed upon solution to this that is focused on growth, not punishment. And people talk about, well, there have to be consequences. What does that mean? Does consequences always have to mean that you feel bad about what you did? Or consequences can be hindsight. And looking back now, I realize that was not a good decision. Moving forward, I know better now. I can do better. And you don't have to shame the kid into guilt to accomplish that.
I'm so glad you mentioned shame. Shame is one of the lowest frequencies of emotions and one of the most powerful that drives our crazy, I'm not going to say the other word, crazy behavior for decades to follow. That shame is that deep feeling of lack of worth, that there is something inherently wrong with me as a person, that things are my fault. And it's the complete opposite of the growth mindset. It limits our learning because I'm a bad person. No matter what I do, I'm still a bad person. So why bother?
Yeah, I'm getting a PhD from memes. And there's one I came across recently that really
was it mine?
It very well could have been. I wouldn't be surprised. But it said something to the effect of, it's important to remember that things happen to you, but not because of you.
Okay. May I +1?
Oh, please. +2 if you like.
I don't know if I have a 2. I'm just not that spiritually evolved. So to a person, I agree that is an improvement, but I'd like to take it a step further. Things don't happen to us. because that would imply that there's some cosmic balance, that we've done this, therefore we do something good, so something good will happen to us because of that. Or we've done something bad, therefore consequence. I almost see that as a bit like that punishment idea. So instead of to me, as if there's some sort of deserving, it's through me.
Yeah, I love that.
So things happen through me. Things happen around me. And that can really empower us to think, okay, things just happen. Where the power lies in what I do about it. We're disempowered when we think that things are just happening to us. We have no control over them. They'll just happen. And yes, some things do happen that are awful, that we can't control. But if we focus on ourselves as being separate from what's going on around us, we can take a breath and say, okay, what am I going to do about this? It's not because of any flaw in myself. It's just life that's happening.
Well, to add on to that, you make an excellent point that when you say something is happening to you, you're putting yourself in direct opposition to that experience. This is coming at me, and there's me, and it's being done unto. It's a victim mindset. But when you're saying it's happening through me, you then see yourself as a potential transformative kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Entity?
Entity.
Conduit?
Wow. And this early in the morning too. Look at
I
you.
know.
Big words already.
It's a few hours later here for us than you, so I've had a little jump on that.
You enjoy your time zone difference, you little Canadian person. Anyway, but yeah, that's absolutely it. When you see yourself as, you can take it and transform it and make it something else. You can also continue the flow. Kindness is done to you. You can pass that kindness forward because it doesn't belong to you. It's simply an experience that's passing through. And you can use that for things that are harder to endure as well.
Like emotions.
Wow, and there's so many of those darn things.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, aren't you in the process of doing something that's emotionally related?
Yes, and speaking of all of the different emotions, I have a gift that I'd like to share with people.
Is there chocolate involved?
Chocolate?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish. Yeah.
Okay,
so someone send me chocolate and we'll talk.
Chocolate, the new currency.
Yeah. A partner of mine has created this lovely little reference guide, which has tons of those emotions. And they're defined. So it's the dictionary of emotions. Here's a little thing. So first of all, I will share that with anyone. I'll send a copy and they can have it printed all shiny and pretty, or download it and print it as black and white. It's a great reference guide for families. So where was I going with that? I totally just ADHD'd there. Is that a verb?
It's you gotta be able to name it in order to do something with it. And there's not just happy, sad, angry. There are flavors of emotions. We talked about this before. And I imagine that the emotions that you shared break it down into more of those grayer, subtle components.
Mm-hmm. So in the English language, people have maybe heard me say this before. In the English language, there are approximately 30,000 words related to emotion. And on average, if people want to try to guess in their mind, we use 12. 30,000, we use 12.
And we wonder why it's so hard for us to understand what each other needs.
Absolutely. And it doesn't take an adult brain to begin to comprehend the subtle differences between a lot of these emotions. There's frustrated, there's irritated. Those are close. And yeah, we could use frustrated all the time when we really mean irritated. But if we don't pinpoint it exactly, that emotion is going to stick around and it's going to grow like rabbits, and it will leak out or it will burst out in some way, in some form, at some point. And it's usually at a very inconvenient time. So we need to identify it specifically.
And some
But
people
I think
might
we're
be,
getting off a little bit.
yeah, some people might ask themselves, well, how do I know which one it is? Well, I could go off on that tangent, but my
Hmm.
recommendation is find a professional to help you explore that
Yeah.
and find the
There are some
language.
beautiful tools
And,
out there now.
and I definitely want to get my hands on that guide.
Yeah,
It sounds like gold. I definitely want you to send that
it
to me.
is. Yeah.
So when it comes to the important role in all of those different emotions, why is that so important? And what role does that play in how you deal with transgressions on the part of your child?
So, understanding more about emotions, we can discover what it is our child might be feeling. And that opens up a whole conversation with them. So, if our child is feeling disrespectful, they're feeling disrespect toward us, we may respond in a certain way. But maybe they're actually feeling frustrated or they're feeling disrespected by us. In that case, there are different things, different tools, and a different way of speaking with them that we will employ. So the more that we know about emotions, the more we can recognize it in others, which will guide the conversations we have with them. And we'll realize that we can forgo all of this punishment because that behavior is driven by their emotions. And the younger a child, the more they are ruled by their emotions because the part of their brain for reason and understanding and logic is far from being developed.
And when you think about why do we behave in the first place? And so much of how we engage the world is driven by a desire to meet our own needs. Yeah? So when you have a child that's lashing out at you and you say, well, I didn't raise my child to behave like this.
How dare they?
Yeah, well, yeah. And you personalize it yourself and think, I need to punish somebody for doing wrong unto me. But the reality is your child is trying to communicate to you, I have a need that I'm not sure how to communicate to you. I know something doesn't feel right, something feels out of place, and I feel uncomfortable because of that. And I'm just throwing spaghetti out there now.
Mm-hmm.
It may come out as tears, it may come out as anger, it may come out as me breaking my favorite toy or knocking something of yours over. But one of my sayings, my parents, is focus on the message, not the method. So
Absolutely.
the method is I'm causing a ruckus and I'm cursing at you, but the message is I'm anxious, I'm feeling distressed, I'm feeling helpless, whatever it is. That's what you got to nail down.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you can help your child meet that need, the behavior goes poof. So
Right.
knowing the emotional vocabulary that is available to describe your child's experience and helping them learn that language too really heightens their social emotional intelligence so
Mm-hmm.
that they maybe have a better chance of coming to you from a more reflective and self-aware state where they can say, Mom, I'm really feeling irritated about something, versus you make me so mad, you're the worst mother in the whole world, blah blah blah. The closer you can start off to being right near what the issue truly is, the better you can solve the problem versus two
Right.
people acting very emotionally with very little insight. Both people walk away wounded and no problems are solved.
And the disconnect widens.
Yeah.
And parents are always talking about, okay, my child is 4 and they're doing X or Y or Z. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're 15 and they're going to be doing such and such that's so much worse because now they're 15. So we automatically, as parents, go to worst case scenario. We futurecast is what I call it, looking far ahead to what will this behavior become, and we always think worst case scenario.
I'm working with a family right now that there's a parent that does that.
It's really common.
Yeah.
I see it as a protective measure. We envision it so we can pay attention and realize I need to do something about this. But what we decide to do will make the difference whether that comes true or comes partially true or is something completely different. and more positive.
So what would you say the bottom line is?
Most parents that I speak with and work with, they know that their child needs to know more about emotions. They recognize that that's important, but they have no idea how to do that because they were never taught. And that's where it needs to start.
And if they wanted to learn those things, where would they start?
There are so many beautiful resources out there, and thank goodness for technology. So, for example, I have a program starting up. Course access and some live calls are starting next week with a new group of parents. And if anybody, pardon?
Today is November 22nd.
Yes.
So 2019. So whoever's watching this beyond that date, just to give them some context.
Right.
But the people that are watching this now, they get their hands on this opportunity first.
Yeah. So if anybody has ever been wanting to work with me, they've been wanting to raise their child's emotional intelligence and raise their own, we've got a great opportunity. I'm going to be working with a small group of parents. We'll have some one-on-one time. We will have some group coaching. There is group games, and they get an online course that we're going to pace ourselves through together. And that really helps with that accountability. How many times have we bought a book or a course and we start it and then life happens 4,000 million times and we kind of drop the ball on that one and our focus goes elsewhere. So this is designed to keep people moving through it so they can complete it. But what's really cool about this one is that it's based on games, which we know kids love, and it makes it a lot more fun for us parents too. The neat thing is that it's this tiny little deck of cards developed by a partner company here in Canada called UEQ. And they've developed this platform and the products, these card games, based on brain science and game dynamics. So it keeps people engaged. It keeps people learning and leveling up through their emotional intelligence skills. And so this first one is called Conversational EQ, Level 1 Emotion Skills. And these are the basic emotion skills that parents and kids and all of us humans need to improve our communication, to improve our connection with others and our influence with our kids. And that's really what's going to set us up for remaining partners as they grow up and deal with bigger and bigger challenges.
And I got to tell you, Allison ran me through this card game about a month or so ago. And we did it this way, virtually, because she's in Canada, I'm in the Midwest.
But I'm working on my passport.
And you got to wait for a new administration before you try and use that passport, okay? That's a side topic. But it was really
we've
compelling.
Heard a few things up here.
Yeah, it was really compelling to go through that card game, even virtually, because it really required me to start looking at my emotions through a slightly different lens. And I got to say, a much more varied and robust lens, because the more layers you can understand about yourself, the deeper you can understand yourself, the more rich your life experience is when you can sample more than just, would you say 12 flavors? Yeah. I mean, there's so much more to it. So, and Allison barely even scratched the surface about what's involved in this program. So I want to encourage everybody, whether you're watching this before her class starts or later, please connect with her and get your questions answered, because this is some really dynamite stuff. In fact, it's something that I absolutely intend to become much more proficient in because of just what Allison's doing with it already. So follow up with her and learn more about this. I promise you, it's going to be an experience unlike any other.
And for those who are watching after November 22nd today, I will be running other groups. And
so
in addition to the groups, people can take the program, take the course, and get their own card game for their families. They can take it separately, so it's a different price point, and it's self-paced, so they can just use it on their own. But if they want that group support, which I feel is so beneficial, because it keeps us engaged and it gives us people to practice with, and it's the brain retraining happens in that practice. And sometimes it's really hard in the busyness of life to carve out that time to practice and explore these ideas. There's so many important things as parents that take our attention, and they're very valid. They should be priorities. But this is so important. Like this is life. This is work. It's home. It's helping our kids. It's modeling for our kids. It's and connection to our own lives,
Yes.
which as social beings we really need.
Our kids are our legacy, and we cannot afford to not raise them in place of busyness. We can't afford to let screens raise our kids. We need to be much more engaged. And this is a lesson I've had to learn myself. It's rare that we are around the table eating dinner together. Last night was one of the nights where we did, and it was phenomenal. And we definitely need to do more of that. But we could talk about this all day long. The thing for you to do right now is to connect with Allison in some way to learn out more about this. If nothing else, get in her Facebook group, get on her email list, stay in touch with her and the brilliant work she's doing, because it can only help you.
And check this out, way more than 12 emotions.
Woo! Can't wait to dive into them further.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Time to get your feels on.
And it's so fast. And it's not like counseling where the image of lay on the couch and tell me about your mother. This is comfortable. People are quite surprised how quickly they feel at ease discussing emotion, because there's some distance between us and the emotion, because we're not talking necessarily about a situation that's current and raw. It's just pulling an emotion card and having a conversation about some thoughts we have about it. And there's so much flexibility for people to go to whatever depth that they feel comfortable with. And it really is about comfort level.
There's so many reasons to say yes to this.
Absolutely.
So,
And yeah. So connect with me on Facebook, send me a message or email or any other platform at all. I'm everywhere out there. And maybe this isn't right for you at the moment, but maybe you've got a friend who has been talking about wanting to understand their child more. Please feel free to share this with them. I encourage you to do so, because it's quick, it's easy, it's simple. It will retrain brains, which is really hard to do sometimes.
and there's no such thing as I'm too old, it's too late. That's a bunch of BS.
Do you hear that a lot?
Oh, yeah. I hear people claim that a lot as a reason to not take action. As long as there's a breath in your body and you have a desire to grow, you can improve, period. So
Absolutely.
with that, always an absolute delight chatting with you, Allison. Follow
Sure.
up with her so you can learn what you need to do. And until you see us again, take care.
Bye, everybody.